Hello and welcome to today's video. In this video, we are going to learn about Excel date functions. The Excel date functions are powerful tools that help you work with dates efficiently. They allow you to calculate days, months, and years, extract parts of a date, and even measure time differences between two dates. This is especially useful in solving real-world problems like tracking project deadlines, calculating employee ages, monitoring payment due dates, or analyzing sales trends over time. By mastering date functions, you can save time, reduce errors, and make your data more insightful and actionable. Let's start with the agenda items. We will first learn the date functions, the description of each date function, and then learn the date arithmetics. Before we start learning about date function, we must first understand the serial number. So let's now learn about the serial number. In Excel, a serial number is a numeric value that represents date or time, and Excel stores these dates and times in a sequential number format so that they can be used in date arithmetic. For example, it can be used for adding days, subtracting days, finding durations, etc. And here in the table, you can see the serial number starts from 1, and 1 represents January 1, 1900. You can see the same value being shown here in this table. Serial number 1 is representing 1/1/1900. Serial number 2 is representing 2/1/1900, and so on. The fractions of a number represent time. For example, 0.5 here, it represents 12 p.m. So the serial number 45876.5 represents the date 7th August 2025, 12 p.m. So now let's move ahead and understand the definition of each function. So here are the list of functions we are going to discuss and practice today. We'll start with the function now. The function now does not take any parameters and returns the current date and time. And the current date and time is returned in real time. The function today also does not take any parameter and returns the current date. The function day takes a serial number, which is essentially a date value, and returns the day of the date. That means it returns a value between 1 to 31. Next, the month. The month function also takes a serial number and returns month of a day between 1 and 12. Next, the function year also takes a serial number and returns the year of the date. Next, we have the date function. The date function can be used to construct a valid date by providing year, month, and day as a parameter to the function. Next, we understand the definition of EDATE. The EDATE function returns a date n months before or after the start date. For example, you provide a start date to the function and also provide an offset. This offset can be plus or minus. For example, if the start date is February 2025 and you give this as a +1 value, the EDATE computes the resulting value as March 2025. Similarly, if this is a negative number and you provide -1 as the value to this, the EDATE computes the resulting date as January 2025. Next, we move on to EOMONTH or end of month. The end of month, very similar to EDATE, takes start date as the first parameter and then months as the second parameter. And it returns the last day of the month, n months before or after. The purpose of EOMONTH, as is listed here, can be used to find month and dates for financial or reporting purpose. Next, DATEDIF function. The DATEDIF function takes 3 parameters: the start date, end date, and a unit. And the DATEDIF returns a difference between 2 days. Please note that there is no official documentation of this function, and Microsoft does not promote this function. It exists only for backward compatibility reasons and can sometimes produce wrong results. It was primarily used to calculate age, tenure, or duration between dates. Finally, we have network days. The network days takes three parameters: start date, end date, and a list of holidays. It is primarily used to compute the number of working days between two dates. I have listed a detailed definition of these two functions, the DATEDIF and the network days function. As you learned earlier, the DATEDIF takes three parameters: start date, end date, and a unit. The unit description is given below here in detailed format. Y stands for complete years between dates, M stands for complete months between dates, and so on. For network days, the third parameter is a list of holidays. So if you provide the list of holidays to the function, it will compute the number of working days between the two dates, the start date and the end date. Now let us move on and practice some of the date functions that we discussed before. We'll start with printing the current date and time. So to print current date using a key combination, press Control key down and press semicolon in the cell B4. As you can see, it has produced the current date value. Let us move on to the next cell. Now press Control and Shift key down and then press semicolon. Now this will print the current time value. Let's now move on to practicing some of these functions. We will start with today. Type is equal to today. And as you can see, the function today does not take any parameters. So close the bracket and press enter. And the function today prints today's date value. And this function produces a date value every time it gets executed. That means it prints always the current date value. Let's move on to the next function. The type is equal to now. Now also does not take any parameters. Close the bracket, and then you can see that the value printed is current date and time value together. Next type is equal to day. The function day, as we discussed earlier, takes a serial number. So we have a sample serial number here, which is date here in the cell B9. So select the cell B9, close the bracket, and the function has extracted the day portion from the date. Now let's move on and type month to extract the month portion from the date. Type month and then select the same date from the cell B9, close the bracket, and you can see it has extracted the month value from the date. Do the same thing with the year. Type year, select the date, and then it has now extracted the year portion from the date. Now let us use the date function and then construct a new date. So to do that, type is equal to date here. The function date takes three parameters: year, month, and day. Let us provide the values which we just extracted. So the year would be cell B16, the month would be B15, and the day would be B14. So after that, close the bracket. And as you can see, we have been able to construct a new date from the year, month, and day value. Let's move on to do some date arithmetic. We will now add and subtract days from a given day. To do that, let us type is equal to here and then select an existing date, which is 3/7/2003. This is just any sample date here. We will add some days to it. Let's say if I add 10 days to 3rd July, it should result in 13th July. So as we expect, it has produced 13th July as a result. Now let us subtract a date from a sample date. To do that, go to the cell type is equal to and select the date value. Now let us subtract 2 days from 3rd July. So that should result in 1st July 2003. And as we expected, it is produced 1st July 2003. Let us do some arithmetic using the EDATE function. As we have seen earlier, the EDATE function is used to add and subtract months to an existing date value. So let us type is equal to EDATE here and then select the start date. The first parameter start date is a sample date here, which is 24th August 2009. Let's add a few months here. Let us add 4 to 8. 8 implies the August month. So if I add 4 months to August, it should result in December. Type 4 and then close the bracket, press enter. Now as we expected, the value is 24th December 2009. So it has successfully added 4 months to an existing date. Now let us subtract some months from the date using the EDATE function. So type is equal to EDATE and then again select a sample start date. And now let us subtract 2 months from August and that should result in June. So if we subtract 2 months, close the bracket, and here we have the result as expected. So the result is 24 June 2009. Now let us move on to months arithmetic using the end of month function. The end of month function is very similar to EDATE function, except for the fact that the end of month function prints the last day of the month. So if you want to add months to a date, so type EOMONTH and then select the day. So let us add 2 months to August. So that should print a date in October, but it won't print 24th October. Instead, it will print the last date in October, which is 31st October. And 31st is the end of month date in October. Let us now perform a subtraction here. Type EOMONTH. Select the start date. Let us subtract 3 months. So this should result in a date in May, and the day value would be end of May. So that is 31st May 2009. So that completes the arithmetic demonstration on end of month and EDATE and date functions. We will now work on the DATEDIF function. As the name suggests, the DATEDIF function is used to compute the difference between two dates, and the result can be in terms of years, months, or days. We can also compute the difference in terms of months excluding years and days excluding months. So let's get started with computing the difference in years. Go here into the practice area and type DATEDIF. So the DATEDIF takes 3 parameters. The first one is the first date, second parameter is the second date, and the third one is the unit parameter. So type Y here to compute the difference in dates in terms of years and then press enter. So between these two dates, the difference in years is 52. Let us now compute the number of months between the dates. Type DATEDIF. Select the first date, comma, second date, and comma. Now type month here and then close the bracket. So M stands for month. So we are now computing the difference between these two dates in terms of months. So between these two dates, we have 625 months. Let us move on and then compute the difference in terms of days. So again, type DATEDIF. Select the first date, second date, and this time type D. D stands for days. So this will compute the difference in terms of days. We have 19,038 days between these two dates. Let's move on and compute the months and days excluding the years, and we'll compute days excluding the months. So this will actually help us in computing the age of a person. For example, if you assume the date of birth of a person as 1st July 1973, we can compute his age as of current date using the DATEDIF function. So let us get started with, again, using the DATEDIF function. So type DATEDIF, select the first date, comma, second date, and then year. So this computation is exactly the same as the previous one. So we have to anyways compute the difference in years. So that is 52 in this case. Let us now compute the difference in terms of month, but excluding the year. So to do that, type DATEDIF and again select the first date, second date, and in the third parameter is going to be YM. This implies we are computing the difference in months excluding the year. So in this case, you can see the month here is July, 1st of July, and here the month is August. So the difference between July and August is going to be 1. So if I now press enter over here, I will get the value as 1. So this has computed the difference in months excluding the year portion. So similarly, let us compute the days excluding the months. So to do that, again type DATEDIF, select the first date, select the second date, and then type MD. This implies we will be computing the days excluding the month. In this case, we would get 14 as the value because the difference between 1 and 15 is 14. So this will give us years, months, and days. So we will use these values to compute the age of a person. So the age of a person whose date of birth is 1st July 1973 is 52 years, 1 month, and 14 days as of today. Let us now work on the network days. As discussed before, the purpose of network days is to compute the number of working days between two dates. So I have two dates here, the year start, which is 1st of Jan 2024, and year end, which is 31st December 2024. I also have a list of holidays. So let us apply network days function to these dates and see how many working days we get from this function. So go to the practice area and type equal to network days, and then select the start date, which is our year start date, and then year end date, and let us not provide any holidays and see the results. So between these two dates, we have in total 262 working days. So the network days function by default considers Saturday and Sunday as the weekends. And if we provide a list of holidays, it will also consider a list of holidays and then compute the final working days. So now let us move and consider the list of holidays and then compute the total working days. So this time again type network days, select the start date, select the end date, and this time provide the list of holidays. So I'm going to select the list of holidays here and then close the bracket, press enter. So as you can see, the total number of working days have been reduced by 3. So you can build the list of holidays according to your requirement and provide that list to the function. Now, the weekends is not the same across other countries. So the network days, as I mentioned earlier, considers Saturday and Sunday as the weekends. However, in some countries, that is not the case, and we have different days as weekends. So let us use this network days international function and provide to it a different weekend and see the results. So type network days international. Again, it takes the start day, end date, and then the third parameter is the weekend. This is where it offers you the flexibility of choosing which day or days is your weekend. So I can consider, let's say, Sunday only as the weekend. So the index will be provided here as the third parameter, in which indicates Sunday is my weekend. And I can provide the list of holidays, but let me continue without providing the holiday list. So with that list of parameters, the networkdays.international function has given me 314 as the total number of working days between these two dates, considering only Sunday as the weekend. Now let me include the holiday list into the function. So go to the practice area, type network days international, and select the start date, select the end date, and then our weekend, select the weekend as Sunday only, and then provide to it the list of holidays, and then close the bracket. So as you can see here, the function has excluded the holidays that was given and then produced the results. And as you can see, the value here is 3 days less than the value produced by the previous function. We are now in the last section of the tutorial. In this section, we will learn about the date formatting. You can see on my screen the same date is formatted differently. Some of them have date value, some have name of the day, some have month name, and so on. We can achieve this using custom format offered in the format dialog. So to open the custom format dialog, select the cell and press Ctrl 1. As you can see, the format of the selected cell is shown in the dialog. In this case, the format of the cell is date format, and the type of the format is displayed to the right here in the list box. You can change the format by selecting to a different value. For example, if you want the date to be displayed in this format where the month name is expanded, select the second format and press OK. Now, if you want to display only the name of the month, then come to the custom format and then type M here. If you type M, it provides you with only the short form of the month. If you type 4 M's, it will give you the long form of this month. Press OK. Similarly, if you want to display only the year portion of the month, then type YY. This is the short form of the year. Now, if you type 3 Ys or 4 Ys, it will give you the long form of the year. Press OK. The custom dialog provides variety of formats that you can customize based on your requirement. So this concludes the tutorial on date functions. Please make sure you watch my next tutorial on the count function.